Welcome into Firewatch Business, and it is my honor to have Pete Moore. Moore, how are you?
I'm awesome. Great to be here with you and, of course, with your listeners. I'm excited for our chat today.
Yes, me too. I mean, it's exciting to have an author on here that is talks about entrepreneurship and the things that we need to do to keep our and even start our own businesses and move forward with that. So, one of the great things you have is of course your book,
Yeah.
the 5 Ps, and I think that's where we want to go today, right? We want to delve into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's this idea of going from owner to operator. And I know a lot of your listeners are startup and all of that sort of stuff, but that's perfectly good time because there's no better time to start this whole thing than when you're getting it rolling with the eye. Nobody gets in the business to say we're just going to keep it as it is. It's kind of like, hey, if this is the thing and it grows and it does well, then away we go. So the idea here is that you have to have the frameworks and systems in place from the start, not when you need them. You got to start them off that way so that you're always thinking you're putting some strategic juices into your thought process as to if this happens, then what? If this happens, then what? And we're working through this as the business grows with purpose and with strategy and with intent. All of these things are really important when you're getting the ball rolling because you don't want to let it happen by happenstance.
No, and that is so true because if you do, you're behind. You're behind the 8 ball when that happens. So give me some examples of like here I am starting my business. Where should be my mindset at the beginning to move forward so I'm not behind?
Well, I think, one of the things we're not going to hit on much today is the fact, like, I do a lot of work in exit planning. So I'm a certified exit planning professional. So, and that's helping people get their business ready to sell. But if you flip it all the way back to the beginning, your business should always be ready to sell. Right from the beginning, you should always be planning. And if you haven't started planning yet, and I'm talking to you, the listener, if you haven't started planning yet, what it looks like to exit this business down the road, then you're already too late. You got to start today. And you got to start thinking about, 1 year down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, whenever it may be. It doesn't matter how long it is down the road. You have to start now in the anticipation that someday you will exit your business. There's death, there's divorce, there's distress, there's partnership disagreements, there's all kind of things that'll take you out of your business prematurely. But then, of course, there's the other side of it, which is about 50% of the businesses today, where you do get to a point where you finally say, listen, I'm actually ready to exit and I want to exit. But you have to start with that in mind. You have to build towards that, and you have to lay things out with a proper format that's going to allow you to exit with the maximum amount of money and leaving behind the business that you want to leave behind so that you can go and live the life that you want to live, because that's why you got into business in the first place. It's like, hey, listen, I want to have a better life.
Right. Absolutely. And I'll give you a perfect example of this that happened with a client of mine. Um, he worked diligently for 30, 40 years to build his business.
Mm-hmm.
His son, he had 3 kids, a daughter and 2 boys. One of the boys came in on the business
Mm-hmm.
and worked it and took it from this level and moved it up to this level. But he never his plan was always to leave it to the son that was in the business. However, he died,
Yeah.
suddenly passed away, and now it's not the sons who's in the business, it's all 3 of them now. All 3 of them are owners. All 3 of the siblings are owners, and, they're like, "Okay, buy me out," and he can't. He can't buy them out. He doesn't have the cash to buy them out. So, the intention of the dad was one thing, and then all of a sudden it comes completely different when something unexpected happens, like you said, death, divorce, partnership disagreements. You know, how do you insulate yourself? What are you looking at?
Well, you got to start with that stuff. You got to think about those type of things. I mean, even going down to something basic for every single person, whether you're a business owner or not, you should have a will.
Right.
And that will should clearly outline what you want to happen. And but there's a lot of small business owners out there that still don't have a will. The thing here, Jason, is that a lot of times as your business grows and as it morphs from being a part-time business to a full-time business and something of value, often it's the thing of most value in most small business owners' lives, even more than their house, even more than their investment portfolio. And a lot of times they have no idea what that's worth and how to deal with that. And they started it off as a side hustle. They did this kind of stuff. It's like, I never thought it would get here, and they didn't do the planning. And but if that's you and you're kind of halfway along this journey, it's time to start. It's time to dig into some of that stuff. Talk to your lawyers, talk to your accountants, talk to the people, the professionals that can help you through this journey. Talk to your partners. Do you have a shareholder agreement? Do you have a buyout clause? Do you have sort of all these different things? What happens if your partner dies? Where are their shares going? Like, do you know what's indicated in the will? Like, if you're a 50-50 partner with someone, or even a 30-70 partner with someone, you should know what's going to happen if something happens to them. Think about the fact that if they get disabled and they get into a car accident and they can't work for a year, what does that mean for you? Like, all of these different things, we never want this stuff to happen, but
Right.
it does happen. You just said it yourself that almost every business owner that's listening to this podcast right now knows somebody or knows of somebody that something like this has happened to. It's that common.
100%. I mean, I work with clients, and several that have had this happen to them.
Yeah.
It's just unpreparedness is a bad place to be.
It is. It is. And I mean, so that's sort of this part of the structure of getting your business set up and ready so that you're prepared, you're feel good, you have clarity, you have confidence, everyone around you have confidence, you're leaving the legacy to your family, like all of the different things that you want to have laid out, and you're thinking about this in your head all along, but you don't necessarily take action upon it. That's the problem. Because when we start a business, it's like all hands on deck. And for those of us who have started a business, when we're actually running another business, or when we're working full time, or we're doing this as a side hustle or something like that, it's kind of like, yeah, I just don't have time to even give any thought to that. And what I'm hoping in this early part of this conversation is that you can't afford not to give time to this. This is crucial. This is about you. This is about your family. This is about money. This is about legacy. This is about your future. This is about everything that you want this business to be, because you started this business with hopes that someday this is going to mean something. And if it all falls down because you haven't set it up properly, that's a problem.
Very good point. And what you're saying is an old Covey saying, right? Begin with the end in mind.
It's true. I mean,
It is.
it's true. And still, those are old words and wise words. And still 95% of business owners don't follow them.
And we see that all the time here in different people, is that they want to do something, they intend to do it, but they don't take the time to do it. And you're like, okay, now, and heck, that's 95% of the people, right? They
Yeah.
go, oh, we're going to be this or we're going to be that, but they're down there buying the lottery ticket and not working their butt off.
Well, working smartly is one thing, and working your butt off is another. I'm a big believer in working smartly. And, I don't think you have to work like cats and dogs and just like nonstop forever. In the startup phase, which I know a lot of the listeners are in the startup phase, you have to. I mean, for people that aren't deep pocketed and they don't have ultimate amounts of money that they can just throw at stuff, you got to do it yourself. You got to start things. You got to learn things. You got to do things. That's that startup phase. But once you get out of that startup phase to the point where you have a couple people, maybe you have an outsourced partner, maybe a VA, you're starting to work things. You got a couple people and you got some things happening, some profit coming in, and you're starting to look at things and saying, hey, listen, this could be a real thing. So maybe we got to lay this stuff out. And that's more what I'm talking about here is, anybody who's done a startup, and I've done lots, I've been in business for 30 years. And so I've had several different businesses that we've bought. Some we started, some we've grown, some we've sold. And, all of these different things along the way, you got to put your head down at given times. But my sort of feeling around entrepreneurship and business ownership is that a lot of small business owners put their head down all the time, and that's a problem. And it's a problem for your health. It's a problem for your family. It's a problem for your relationships. It's a problem for a lot of different things. And so it's okay to go full on when you need to go full on. The seasons of busyness are normal as being a business owner. But if the season of busyness is 365, that's a problem.
100%. 100%. In the startup phase, that's like you said, that's probably necessary. But again, we're talking about planning. You need to be planning to get your out of that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unsustainable. There's mental fatigue, there's physical fatigue. When you're not mentally and physically healthy, you can't run a healthy business. And I firmly believe that. And everybody else that's working with you and for you around you sees that happening, and they're saying, I don't want to be part of this. They want to be part of a healthy, growing business with healthy relationships and all sorts of good things happening culturally, so they can say, hey, this is a business that I want to work for, and this is the kind of stuff that I want to do down the road. Do I really want to go to work for somebody who's hell-bent on working 100 hours a week and expects me to too? You're going to find a very hard time in small business finding people like that. That may be more of a corporate mentality when you can earn $1 million a year, but for your small business type mentality, that's not generally what people are looking for.
No, and I remember starting out as a young CPA with a CPA firm, and that was the whole deal: billable hours, billable hours, billable hours, and working through tax season. Just and I get it. That's paying your dues, but let me tell you, there's a CPA shortage out there right now because people don't want to do that anymore.
I hear you. And
It's amazing.
and still, I mean, if you're okay, I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to think of businesses. There's lots of seasonal businesses out there, and it's like, if we're running in a tourist location where it's all out for 4 months of the year, I'm going to work every single day for 4 months of the year. Okay, accept that, do it, make your money, and then enjoy some time off. It doesn't really matter to me where you take your time off throughout the year, because there's ebbs and flows in every business. And I'm not here saying that every business you work 5 days a week and 40 hours a week or whatever you want. Like, that's not my take on this. My take is, you got to work when you got to work. That's part of being a business owner. And the other piece is, you're allowed and allow yourself to take some time off too.
Yeah, sometimes you have to give you give yourself permission.
Yes, sir.
I think some people don't feel like they can do that.
Because we get habitualized in those startup years. We get habitualized into working sevens, and like, I'm talking 7 days straight, and working 6 weeks straight, and working 3 months straight, and working 9 months straight, and taking 1 day off a year instead of taking, and anybody that works for you gets at least 104 days off a year, 2 days a week, 52 days, or 52 weeks a year plus holidays. Why don't you take that?
Right.
You don't think, as a business owner, you deserve to have at least what you give to your team as holidays? I think you do. I think you should work that into your business. And I think that that's something that you have earned. And a lot of small business owners don't go there because they've always had to, and they started it in startup, and then they just never kind of reeled that off a little bit because they got habitualized into working 7 days a week, and they don't know what it's like anymore not to.
Do you feel like some business owners just force themselves to do that because that's where their comfort level is, and then allowing to delegate maybe outside that zone of comfort?
Well, I think that's all part of that 5P structure that we were going to chat about. And we kind of, got into some other great stuff here. And I think this stuff is real too. Like, all of it's real. It's all part of the bigger picture. And when we start thinking about delegation, it's a big piece. So many small business owners don't know how to delegate. So many small business owners don't know. They know the word accountability, but they don't know what it means to actually align and assign accountability to another individual properly. And, it all starts with I'm going to run the 5 Ps for you just to kind of give everybody what they are. And then we can sort of talk about how this aligns, because everything starts with the promise. That's P number one, the promise, which is what you promise to your customers,
Right.
how you're taking them through their pain with your unique set of process to their gain. Because I'll tell you, there's only one thing that anybody will ever buy, and that's a better life. Doesn't matter whether you're buying a steak for supper tonight, whether you're buying a vacation, whether you're buying a new pair of shoes, whether you're buying anything that you put your money down on, you're putting your money down on with the thought that if I put my money down on here, I'm going to have a better life in some given way. And so that's the promise that you need to find out for your particular business. What's their pain? How do you uniquely take them through that pain to a better life? When you can show that and express that and live that, and they can see that happening, they will spend their dollars. So that's the promise. The next piece is the product, then the process, then the people, so that you can have the right amount of profit. And when we look at the product, so whether you're a product business like I am, we own a couple of shoe stores, or whether you're a service business, it's really what your offering is, right? And that has to be in alignment with your promise. And if your promise is not in alignment with that, that's where people get confused. They're like, I don't know what to do here. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not confident in the fact that this person can make my life any better with this product or service. So I'm not going to buy it.
And the owner of the company has to know the promise backwards and forwards and be able to deal with the promise, right? To deliver on the promise.
Everything is built on the promise. It's where it all starts, everything. And the promise is not your mission. It's not your vision. Those are inwardly facing, right? Those are about what you're doing in your
Right.
business, in your life, and all that kind of stuff. The promise is the one you shout out from the mountaintops and you're saying, this is what I do. This is how I can help you. This is how I can take you through from the pain that you're feeling to the gain that you want to feel. And I can do this better than anyone else. That's the promise. And then we have that product alignment. The next piece is the process alignment. And if the process is all in your head, and I'm talking to you, the business owner, the listener here today, if the process is all in your head, how can you expect anyone else to follow that process?
Well, that's a very good point.
A
I
lot of
never
small
thought of it
business
that
owners,
way.
A lot of
That's a
small
lot of
business owners, Jason, they're like, well, I know what to do. I know. So if you're wondering why everybody's always coming to you for all the answers and all the, any of your team members, any of your customers, any of your suppliers, they're always picking your brain on that stuff. It's because you haven't set up the process, and you haven't set that process in alignment to set in your accountability chart someone else giving them the accountability to own this process.
Yeah, that's genius. I mean, and that is so true because, you know, my dad always used to tell me that he was a serial entrepreneur too. He said if you relied on somebody 100% of the time or you couldn't live without them, you need to fire them because you need to learn it on your own. Or if that person's you, you better delegate it out.
Yeah. I mean,
They'll take it over. And you
I
got to
like to
rely on them
use
so much.
I like to use the framework around another sort of catchphrase that I use a lot is called moving from detail to dashboard.
Mhm.
We will always want to move from detail to dashboard. The only way we can go from detail to dashboard is through process, because process allows whatever happens in that process to be done by someone else, and they're owning the detail, not you. And they're giving you the dashboard. And the dashboard is as you level up in the ownership of your business, without being involved in every little detail, you're now getting the dashboard. And, I'll use bookkeeping for an example. You're an accountant. I have 2 business degrees. I'm pretty good at bookwork, and I hate it. I
Yeah.
don't want to rectify the visa. I don't want to, marry all the accounts together. I haven't done it in probably 28 years of my 30 years of business. I can do it and I'm good at it. And when my bookkeeper has a question, she'll actually come to me and ask me because I understand sort of the parameters of everything. I just don't like the nitty-gritty detail type stuff.
Yep.
I look at a balance sheet, I look at an income statement, I look at a cash flow analysis, I can pick out the stuff right away. But I don't want the detail. And when we look at that sort of stuff, just give me the dashboard. And what I want for the listeners here is the stuff that you don't want to do anymore. There are other people out there that do want to do this, that are excellent at it, that really love and get all of their juices filled by doing that. And I'll use Michelle as part of my team. When she like balances the visa, she's like, woohoo. She's like, woohoo. And she's like, got it, and she's like doing her little happy dance basically at her desk. And I would be like, oh my God, that would be the most painful 3 hours I would have spent rectifying my visa for the business for the month. So what your pain is someone else's gain. And we need to set up the process and align the people, which is the next P, right? We've got the promise, we've got the product, we've got the process. Now we're into the people. And the people I lay out in 3 different ways, Jason. One is your ideal customer. And I'm sure we've talked about that on the podcast. And, who is your ideal customer? The next is your ideal teammate. Well, that's what Michelle is for me. She's an ideal teammate who loves to do what I don't do and owns it from an accountability perspective, right? And then we have our ideal suppliers. So ideal customers, ideal teammates, ideal suppliers. And the ideal suppliers are the people that really help you deliver your promise. They might be marketing companies. They might be HR companies. They might be VAs, virtual assistants that are helping you deliver some of your products, goods, and services. They might be anybody else. Like in my case with the shoes, they're all of our shoe brands and all of that kind of stuff that we have within our stores in order to deliver our promise to our customers, which is to help them make or look great and feel fantastic every day. So all of these different things align with the promise. And if you think about, I'll give you sort of the outline. Our Shoetopia, or our shoes stores are called Shoetopia. But just to give a quick example, because I could spend the whole day outlining it, but the very quick example is at Shoetopia, our promise is to deliver this. We want to help people look great and feel fantastic. That's our tagline, our promise. So the idea is when they come in looking for shoes, we get, we've gone through our whole process and we have processes all built around it. I help people build what I call their heart models around their promise. It's one of the things I do as a business coach. And then we start building this heart model. And it's all the process that drives people down into the promise. And so we've got all that set up. But basically, if we can get them through, the aisles and figure out what they want, we want to get the shoe on their foot. And when we get the shoe on their foot and we get them in front of the mirror, we want them to look in the mirror and here are the words we want to hear when we know we've hit the promise. We want to hear ooh, ah, and aha, which is, ooh, I look pretty good when I'm standing in front of the mirror. It's like, ooh, I look pretty good. I like these. The next one is close your eyes. How do they feel? Oh, these feel fantastic. Look great, feel fantastic. That's the motto. When we hear those two, either the ooh or the ah, or they look great or feel fantastic, we know we've got what they came in looking for. We've got the aha moment. So we're taking everything we do at Shoetopia down into 9 letters. Ooh, ah, and aha. And when we've got the aha, they go to the cash. They feel comforted. They feel like they look great. They came in what they needed. And they walk out the store feeling as though they've been served right, treated well, all of the different things that go into our heart model. And they look back up at the sign and they say, you know what? Shoetopia is my favorite shoe store. I'm coming back here next time.
Yeah, because you delivered on the promise.
The promise is the bedrock.
Absolutely. That is exactly so true. So true. And if you're wishy-washy on your promise, you cannot develop the rest of the 4 P's. You're lost.
So true. When you have those in alignment, when you nailed your promise and you have the product, the process, and the people in alignment, then you get the profit. And the profit is where you can start saying to yourself, oh, now what? Because up until you get to profit, your head's down, like we talked about earlier in the show.
Right.
Your head's down, and you're like, you're working through this stuff. You're doing what you got to do. You like those are those startup years, and I get it. I've been there. But once you start seeing the profit, it starts opening up the frameworks of saying, oh, am I going to open another store? Am I going to buy another truck? And we're going to get a rental unit? Are we going to buy our own building to have the build? Like you start thinking about all this stuff. It's like, maybe I need to hire another person. Oh, maybe I need a manager. Maybe I want to hire a bookkeeper. Like all of these things don't come until profit comes.
Right. And then you got
And
to start looking at prioritization of what they need. And then you're back to people again, back to the promise of people.
that's, well, process and people, right? Because
Right.
there's no sense of aligning and assigning authority if you don't have good process, because they don't know what to do. They cannot read your mind.
So
And
in your shoe stores, do you have like a script for these people to
for
kind of
sure,
follow through?
for sure.
Because that's
We
a process.
Yeah, we have process all over the place, and it's very good. Like I work about a day a week in my shoe stores. As we're recording this, next week I'm going away for a month sabbatical, without any contact whatsoever to my shoe stores, and it'll all get done. I haven't hired a person in my shoe stores for probably 7 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. So my team does it, and we've got a process that hires people and they do it. And that being said, if I've got two people that are key people in that particular organization, and if one of them left, I would have to hire, because that's my level of authority, right? And in fact, one of them gave notice about a month ago or 3 weeks ago and said, I'm pregnant and I'm going to be away. And here in Canada, our rules basically allow that person to be off for 12 months and up to 18 months, and we need to hold their job for them. So that's just part of our Canadian laws. And from that perspective, being without one of your two key individuals for 12 or 18 months is a big deal. But I can tell you, we have processed down really well. We've already started cross training. We're already working on all of this stuff. And if I didn't have all this stuff in place, and if I didn't know that that person wasn't already well prepared with process, and if we didn't have a clear accountability chart which lets everybody know where every accountability lays within the business, this would be like I would be lying awake every night worried about what's going to happen here. And at this point in time, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a fun year and a half, because she's such a key and integral part of our business. But I do feel confident that we're going to get through this with I'll say relative ease, but you know what I mean? It's
100%.
when we look, it's not going to be easy, but because we are set up for success, and because she knows our process and she knows she has to have everything documented, and it's on video, it's in document, it's in all sorts of format, the way that anybody else would have to understand it, because people learn in different ways. It's all there and we can find it. That's the other thing. Is it searchable? Is it searchable? Is it understandable? Is it repeatable? And is it executable? I call it sure process. Searchable, understandable, repeatable, and executable. And if it is, then you can have more confidence in the fact that this will be upheld with the next person that takes on those duties, whether it's for a week when that person goes away, for a month when they go on a sabbatical like me, or whether it's for 6 months because they have a long-term disability, or whether it's permanently.
That's I the processes are, I think, are key to a lot of different things, and they absolutely take heartache to a very low level. If you have a written process and a system that people can understand, then that really helps you out in your business. The other thing I like what you said was cross training. The people when I worked for a corporation back in the day, my boss absolutely would not cross train anybody on anything he did. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand if it was fear of him being in control, or if it was fear that somebody would do it better or find a better way to do it. I don't know why. But the fact of the matter is that he never could leave. He could never leave. And then he limited himself, so it was accounting. You're closing the month. He's got to be there, right? Because nobody else knows how to close the month like he does. It was just, it's so foolish. And who cares if somebody comes up with a better idea? Lord have mercy. Let's a new process. It's a better process. That's not a bad place to be.
I encourage it. I mean, probably 80% of the process that happens in our businesses today have come up with someone other than me. It's because they know their business better than they know their particular accountability better than I do. So why wouldn't I let them create the process around that? It's like I set it up. So when it comes to process, if you don't have any process, anything's better than no process. But here's the thing. There's really never or very seldom ever a perfect process, but we're always trying to perfect them. So once you start to, I've got this framework that I use, and you can find it at one of my websites called the simplifyingentrpreneurship.com. And then it's /4 A's. And it's the 4 A's of accountability. And really it's assess it, address it, align it, and assign it. And there's sort of these quadrants that you work through for any given process. We need to assess what we're going to transfer, which is, okay, well, what do I want off my plate? Like if that was your old boss, I'm going to let monthly month ends go. I'm going to address it, which means, okay, well, what actually needs to be done here and what needs to be changed from the way I do it so that somebody else can do it. I'm going to align it, which now I'm going to say, okay, well, out of the other 12 accountants that I've got working here, who can actually do this? And then I'm actually going to assign it. And assign it is the hardest part for most small business owners. They will give somebody title, but they won't actually assign accountability. It's a very interesting thing. They'll put that title on their business card, but at the end of the day, that person doesn't actually own the accountability of what they've been asked to do. They still have to go back to that person in order to get final sign off. So that's not, in my opinion, that's not accountability.
No, you should have the responsibility to do that task and be held accountable for that task.
Correct.
Then you have the task. Then you own the task. But as long as you're having to go back up to somebody else and say, hey, review it and send it on up the line, then for me, I can screw it up. And not be held accountable. And that you don't truly let go if you do that. You haven't delegated if you're doing that.
So one of the things that we're doing in this sabbatical that I'm taking off for the month is that I have aligned and assigned full authority to our corporate bank accounts to my bookkeeper. And so that's the first time we've ever done that in my 30 years of running a business. I've always they've always brought it up to the very last point where I've just clicked a button and said, okay, go ahead, but now it's like, finally, it's like you own this while I'm gone. And it's a test because this business needs to be completely exit ready. And that's part of what I coach to. It's another one of my websites, the Exit Ready Business, all of this sort of stuff. It's like, I need to have this completely exit ready so that, and I don't want to exit this business. I'm at the point of this business where I look at this business and I'm like, this is actually a pretty good investment for me. Why would I exit this business? But that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be exit ready. It does need to be exit ready. Your business should always be exit ready because there's, like we talked about, things can happen in your life that you're not planning for. Or somebody could come knocking on your door and say, I like your little business here. Would you be interested in selling it? And if that was the case and you had everything lined up and fully and they felt really good, it's like, wow, this person has their stuff together. How much more value are you going to get for that business than the one where somebody says, oh my God, if this person leaves, the business is going to fall down and like probably fail.
Yeah. That's a tough place to be.
As an accountant, I'm sure you've seen lots of those type of businesses over the years.
I have. And some of the things that you see, you say, you cannot do that. That is something you don't need to do. And then they have to decide whether they're going to do it or not. And I've seen it work out poorly, and I've seen me be completely wrong. But the fact of the matter is, I have to give my opinion when they pay me to come to me and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And then I have to tell them exactly what I think.
For
Uh,
sure.
and sometimes it's luck more
You
than
know
it is
what?
reason. But
Here's the other thing, and why business owners go to people like their accountant or go to a business coach or whatever for advice is because they really don't have anyone else to talk to. Their partner at home probably doesn't want to hear about it anymore. They're like, "Oh my God, can we talk about something else?"
Mhm.
Their friends, typically, unless they're other business owners, they have no idea what you're talking about. And as much as you have an open door policy at work for people to come in and tell you stuff and all that and you ask their opinion, they're not always completely forthright with you because you still sign the paycheck and they don't want to cause issues there, right? So who do you talk to? Well, you talk to your business coach, you talk to your accountant, you talk to your lawyer, you talk to a few of the different people in your environment, or maybe if you have an association. I do a lot of coaching with a variety of different associations that pull people together in different industries. And
Mm.
these are different things that help you become better. And the job of all of us is to give you other alternatives and to open up the thought process so that you can better make a decision for what's right for you and your business. And I hope you agree with this, Jason, in saying that we're not there to make the decision. We're there to help you think about the alternatives so that you can make the decision.
100%, because that's what they're there for, is to say, to look and see what other options are out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure, like you do too, have tons of stories about the certain things that's happened to poor people that you're like,
Yeah.
you know, that some of them you've saved, some of them you didn't.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
I had one a retailer that came to me in the fall, and she said, "Pete, I've been at this for 25 years. They have a pet store business. And, it does over $1 million. It's doing okay as far as gross sales and stuff like that. And she's got a bunch of groomers and, has good community spirit and all of that kind of stuff." And she said, "I think I'm going to want to sell this business within the next 2 years." And I said, "Okay, well, at least you've got a couple of years. Some people think they can do it in a couple of months. It's not the
Right.
case. It's more usually like 2 to 5 years is a more typical time length." So, and she said, "Well, my lease is up in 2 years. So that's why I want to start putting this together." And I said, "Okay." So we start digging into some stuff. And yeah, she did have a business and it was, doing, 1.5 million in business or whatever the case was and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you boiled it down, she was pretty much working 7 days a week, 60, 70 hours a week. This is
Mm,
after 25 years. And she wasn't making very much profit in the business. And she was basically paying herself minimum wage for working that amount of hours as a labor of love. And she said, "I've loved this all my life, and it's been my life." And I said, "I get that, but when somebody else comes in to look at this business, they're not going to see the lines of revenue that they're probably going to want to see in order to buy this business." And she said, "But I've been here for 25 years." And I said, "Well, they don't really care about that."
no.
And it's like, "Well, I'm doing 1.5 million of business." Yeah, but if you're only showing 40,000 or 50,000 in profit on 1.5 million of business, and there's no real way of showing more than that, and you're looking at what you're taking out of the business, and it's not much there, why wouldn't they just be the manager of your store for 40 or 50,000 and not buy this business for? And she said, "But I need 350,000 at least out of this business for my retirement plan." And I said, "Then there's a lot of work to do in the next 2 years."
Right.
And it was a hard lesson. And that's why I think when we started this business, that have the end in mind and understand the value of your business along the way, and get realistic valuations or range of value along the way of your business, because somebody at the golf course telling you that your business is worth $1 million isn't good enough. And just because they sold their pet store for $1 million doesn't mean that you can too. And there's all sorts of different things around that create the range of value for your business. And if it's a big piece of your portfolio, we talked about de-risking it We talked about all of the things you need to really look at, because being a business owner, there's a lot behind it there that so many people bypass. We need to de-risk this business. We need to understand the value. We need to work through the 5 Ps in order to build the multiples on our business, for when somebody does come, or when we do want to list this business, we're not only listing it because, well, here's the other thing, which relates back to this pet store. Doesn't matter what the multiple is if there's no profit, because 3 times 0 or 7 times 0 is still 0.
100%. And that's one of the things we talk about here also is if somebody did want to come in and take over, they don't want to work it, they want to hire a manager. Can they do that and still make money off of you?
That's it.
And what would that multiple be? What would that be? What would their ROI be on that if they could do it that way? And if you're not there, then you got to start working toward there.
That's it. And that's what we do as business coaches, right? We work through those kind of things and lay this sort of stuff out on an ongoing basis. And it's not a flip of the switch. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time. And it takes, you've got to get through some different things to see it happening. Sometimes it goes down further before it starts even coming up again. And all of these things are part of the business journey. And that's why business ownership isn't for everyone. But for those that, I don't know about you, but for my 30 years, we've definitely had some failures. I sold my cottage to pay off one of the debts that we had in one of the businesses one time. And, that really was hard. But, and I've had a lot of downs, but for the ups that I've had, I wouldn't change it for the world. We've had a great life. We had we've 3 kids, brought up 3 kids, and had a great time. Like, all of the different things we've done, and all of the things that our business has provided us over the years has been great. But I can tell you that business ownership isn't for everyone. And if having those ups and downs isn't sort of your gig, and it's going to keep you awake at night, and it's going to take down your health, both mental and physical, then it's okay not to be a business owner. But if those kind of things you think you can handle, then being a business owner is probably one of the best things I've ever been. And I just have loved my life as a business owner. And I hope that you, the listener, as you're kicking this thing off, or maybe whatever stage of business you're at, it's providing you a happy and healthy life, because that's why we got into business in the first place.
100%. I mean, I never had any fulfillment working for somebody else. The fulfillment came when I was doing stuff for myself and working diligently for what I want and how I do. But that's absolutely sound advice.
I love it.
This has been fantastic. I know you're busy and got to do what you got to do. I do want to kind of plug your book a little bit here, because so do that for me.
Sure.
Because I'll butcher it if I do.
Well, I appreciate that. If you've liked this sort of talk around the 5 Ps, it's called The Business Owner Breakthrough, and you can find it on Amazon. It's a short book. It's an entrepreneurial book. It's like 100 pages. You'll be able to read it in about 2 hours. Kind of goes through this stuff, digs into a little bit deeper. And that's the name of my podcast too. It's called The Business Owner Breakthrough. I've got a couple of podcasts, but that's the one that's most affiliated to what we've been talking about today. And if you would like to find out about me or anything, just go over to pete-moore.com. That's MOHR, pete-moore.com. And then all of my affiliated websites are under there, and you can kind of dig into the Exit Ready business, the Colby Coach, Simplifying Entrepreneurship, or the podcasts to find out a little bit more about what we do.
I believe that education is key, and if you're not learning, you're falling behind. And I think podcasts like this, your book, the other things that you have going on for other entrepreneurs is huge. And what's one of the things that I really want our listeners to know is that you got to keep pushing, you got to keep learning, and being prepared. So, Pete, thank you so much for your time today, man. I really, really do appreciate it.
It has
helping
been a
me
pleasure.
out and coming on. This has been very enlightening. I love it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Make it a great day, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Pete.